It's been a busy day here at Tianjin, viewers, because as you know, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with President Xi Jinping, substantial and consequential meeting indicating that the two countries now are looking at developing their relationship in a more meaningful way. Of course, high on rhetoric, both resolving to look at the long term, but short really if you were to look substantively on anything that was tangible. But a commitment in itself at a time such as this is a signal to America and Donald Trump that India will abide by its commitment to plurilateralism. It will not be restricted by any directions or expectations from Washington to conform to its unilateral worldview, and that India, in interests of advancing its own economy, is going to steadfastly maintain and protect its own territorial and economic integrity as well as its autonomy. And for fundamental reasons, therefore, expect Washington to respond over the next few days to what it will clearly see as a provocative move by New Delhi to engage China, but it will only have itself to blame, because if it was seeing India as an important ally, as a bulwark against China's expansion in this part of the world, which is of course in Asia, then President Trump hasn't played his cards very intelligently, almost pushing India into once again reactivating its own involvement in forums such as the SCO, and later, of course, through the SCO in BRICS. So fundamentally, the main takeaway is that the conversation was high on optics, but not so much on deliverables. But nonetheless, it is a beginning. There are issues that did come up for talks and discussion, specifically with regards to terrorism, and perhaps an expectation was made of China to continually work on delivering on its promise to stabilize this region by pulling back perhaps some of its own support for Pakistan. That having been said, one doesn't expect the Chinese to leap to obviously cut ties with Pakistan. It still sees India as a competitor in the region. And another important factor that one has to look at, of course, is the fact that fundamentally India also is seeing its conversations with regards to ensuring that as far as its own options are concerned, it will deleverage further from countries of the West, so that it can also grow its own economy in a manner that India can become self-sufficient. And China will be an important player in that endeavor, given the fact that the Chinese have a huge interest in also developing their own economy. Remember, the Chinese economy is flagging just a little bit right now. It needs markets, it needs to spur growth, and it will look towards India, perhaps an investment from India, to also boost its own economic deficiencies which have crept in over the last few years, and perhaps enable at some level or the other for its own growth story to remain robust. Taking a larger view, of course, President Putin and Prime Minister Modi will also be meeting and holding talks, which is very, very crucial at this moment, because President Trump has been suggesting that it is India's relationship, specifically its trade in oil with Russia, that is to blame for the crisis in Ukraine. In fact, Peter Navarro, who is Trump's trade advisor at the White House, has even gone and suggested rather ludicrously that this is Modi's war in Ukraine and not a war that has been created by competing interests between Russia and the United States and other NATO countries. Fundamentally, India doesn't see it that way, and therefore this conversation that is also going to take place with President Putin is an important reaffirmation of India's position that it disagrees with the United States' point of view on this specific issue. So that's really the sum and substance of the day here in Tianjin. We have, of course, the readouts from both the sides now, and they make for an interesting study because it's a detailed readout going into several clauses on both sides, suggesting that The conversation between India and China has been comprehensive, and the two countries are looking now to put perhaps the hiccups of the past behind them and build on this opportunity that has been provided by President Trump's rather petulant tariff diplomacy. Thank you for watching our coverage. We're going to, of course, bring you many more details over the next few days as it enters into its final leg, which is, of course, the SCO meeting with Ravinder Kumar. This is Rahul Shivshankar reporting from Tianjin.